When my sister became pregnant, my parents hosted a big celebration, purchased every baby essential, and even treated her family to a luxury getaway, saying, "Finally, someone's giving us a baby we can celebrate." But when my wife got pregnant and we announced the news, everyone just sighed, "Oh great, another kid." My wife's eyes brimmed with tears as I asked, "So nothing for our child?" My parents barked, "Quit causing drama, this is our house. If you don't like it, leave." My sister smirked, "Guess he just got her pregnant for the presents." Everybody laughed. I took my wife's hand and walked out. The next morning, I woke to 24 missed calls saying, "It's urgent, please pick up." Can you imagine finally sharing the happiest news of your life, that you're expecting a baby, only to have your own family laugh in your face and practically tell you your child isn't welcome? Because that's exactly what happened to me, and trust me, it was just the beginning of a shocking, ugly truth about the people I thought loved me. My name's Ryan. I'm 29, and honestly, until a few weeks ago, I truly believed my family and I were, well, if not close, then at least functional. Looking back now, the cracks were always there. Little tremors, whispers of a deeper, darker truth, but nothing could have prepared me for the emotional demolition derby that unfolded when my wife, Jenna, and I shared our joyous news. We were having our first child. To really get how much of a gut punch this was, you need to picture my family. My parents? Oh, they're the masters of illusion, the kind who prioritize appearances above everything. Holidays weren't about connection, they were meticulously curated, Instagram-worthy affairs. A flawless family tableau, staged for the neighbors and extended relatives. And then there's Emma, my sister, 2 years younger, the undisputed golden child. You know the type, straight-A student, cheer captain, every achievement broadcasted like a royal decree. Me? I was the quiet one, the one who just kept his head down. I did well enough in school, landed a decent IT job, bought my own house, stayed out of trouble. But somehow, that never quite measured up. The favoritism used to be subtle, a soft hum beneath the surface of our lives. Emma got the bigger bedroom, the later curfew, the extra cash for clothes. I got told to be grateful. When I graduated college, my parents took me to Olive Garden. A nice gesture, sure. But when Emma graduated, they rented out an entire venue, invited 50 people, and put on a catered brunch. I remember rolling my eyes, internally sighing, and just letting it go. I've always been the one to keep the peace, to be the bigger person. Fast forward to last year. Emma got married, and my parents practically mortgaged their souls to make it the wedding of the century. Custom invitations, a live band, photo booths, an open bar, even a horse-drawn carriage for her grand entrance. I was happy for her, truly. But a nagging voice in the back of my mind couldn't ignore that when Jenna and I got married just 2 years prior, my parents had handed us a $200 check and a dismissive, "This should help." I shrugged it off, then told myself not to keep score. Turns out, they were. A few months ago, Emma announced her pregnancy. I swear, I have never seen my parents so utterly ecstatic. They threw her a gender reveal party that looked like it belonged in a magazine, balloon arches, a sprawling dessert table, professional photographers, the works. Then they plastered it all over Facebook, beaming like they'd won the lottery. Finally, our first grandbaby, they gushed. The start of the next generation. They bought Emma and her husband a brand new crib, stroller, car seat, even footed the bill for a baby moon trip to Greece. Jenna and I were genuinely happy for them, though we privately joked about how ridiculously over the top it all was. Then came last weekend. Jenna and I had just had our 12-week ultrasound, and we were absolutely thrilled. The timing felt perfect. Emma's pregnancy had been the family's main event for months, and we thought sharing our news now, while everyone was still in baby mode, would be a beautiful addition. We were naive enough to think they'd be just as overjoyed for us. So, we gathered everyone for dinner at my parents' house. I can still see Jenna's nervous, hopeful smile as we carefully placed the ultrasound picture on the table and announced, "We're expecting 2." For a single, agonizing moment, there was silence. I thought maybe they were processing, letting the news sink in. Then my mom let out this long, exasperated sigh. "Oh, great," she said, her voice dripping with disappointment. "Another kid." My dad chuckled under his breath. And Emma, my golden sister, smirked. "Guess he just knocked her up for the gifts," she sneered. Everyone laughed like it was the funniest thing they'd ever heard. Jenna's face went utterly pale. Her eyes, usually so bright, filled with tears. I felt like someone had physically punched me in the chest, knocking the wind out of me. I tried to keep my voice calm, steady, when I finally asked, "So, nothing for our child? No congratulations? Not even a hug?" My mom rolled her eyes, a dismissive flick of her wrist. "Stop making drama, Ryan. This is our house. If you don't like it, you can leave." My dad nodded, looking annoyed, as if our very existence was ruining his dinner. Emma leaned back in her chair, smug and completely unrepentant, adding, "Not everything has to be about you, Ryan." That was it. The dam broke. I stood up, took Jenna's trembling hand, and said, "We're done here." We walked out, leaving our ultrasound photo abandoned on their perfect dining table. As the door closed behind us, I could still hear my dad muttering something about me being overly sensitive. That night, Jenna cried herself to sleep, her sobs tearing at my heart. I just sat there in the dark, staring at the ceiling, a toxic cocktail of anger and heartbreak churning inside me. These were supposed to be the people we celebrated with. Instead, they'd twisted what should have been one of the happiest days of our lives into a humiliating spectacle. I remember thinking, maybe this is it. Maybe we just go low contact, raise our baby without them, and finally stop trying to win approval we're clearly never going to get. But then the next morning, my phone started buzzing. An avalanche of 24 missed calls, voicemails, texts from my mom, my dad, even Emma. "It's urgent. Please pick up. Ryan, you need to call us back right now." My stomach dropped. Part of me wanted to ignore them, to savor a moment of spiteful silence, but another part, a curious, worried part, knew this wasn't good. And for once, it felt like they needed me. When I finally worked up the nerve to scroll through the missed calls, my stomach was tied in knots. The last time my family had been this desperate to reach me was years ago during a real medical emergency with my dad. I sat at the kitchen table, my thumb hovering over the call button, trying to decide if I could even stomach whatever drama awaited. Jenna walked in, still puffy-eyed from crying, holding a mug of tea. "Are you going to call them back?" she asked softly. I just shook my head at first. I don't know if I can stomach it right now. Not after last night. We sat there in silence until my phone buzzed again. This time, it was Emma calling over FaceTime. Against my better judgment, I answered. Emma's face filled the screen, and she looked utterly shaken. I'd never seen her so pale. "Ryan, thank God. Listen, you have to come over to Mom and Dad's right now. Please." She was talking so fast I had to tell her to slow down. "What happened?" I asked, already bracing myself for something ridiculous. Look, I can't explain over the phone. Just please get here. Everyone's here." Part of me wanted to hang up right then, to tell her to figure it out herself. But there was this tiny, stubborn piece of me that still cared, still felt responsible for this family no matter how terribly they treated me. I told Jenna, "You don't have to come if you don't want to." But she surprised me, putting on her coat and saying, "No, if we're doing this, we're doing it together." When we pulled up to my parents' house, there were already 3 cars in the driveway, my parents', Emma's, and my uncle's. The curtains were drawn, but I could see silhouettes moving inside. The air was heavy, charged with tension. The moment we stepped through the door, everyone turned to look at us, the living room dead silent, save for my mom's anxious pacing. She stopped cold when she saw me, words spilling out like water from a burst pipe. "It's the baby shower," she blurted. "The venue called this morning." They said the final payment bounced. Something about the card being declined, and now they're saying if we don't settle the balance by tonight, they'll cancel the whole thing. I blinked at her, stunned. Wait, I said slowly. You threw a party so big you couldn't even pay for it? My dad bristled, always quick to save face. It's not that we can't pay. There was some mix-up with the account. You know how these banks are. Emma looked on the verge of tears. Ryan, you don't understand. This is supposed to be tomorrow. We sent out the invites. We have people flying in. If this gets cancelled, it'll be humiliating. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. After everything they had said to me the night before, they were now panicking about saving face for Emma's party. I exchanged a look with Jenna, who gave me a barely there shake of her head, as if to say, don't jump in yet. Listen first. So, what does this have to do with me? I asked slowly. My mom clasped her hands together in a way that made her look almost pleading. We need someone who can pay the venue today to keep the reservation secure. Just until the bank clears things up, my dad added gruffly. You've always been responsible with money. We figured maybe you could front it. There it was. The real reason for all the missed calls. Not because of some family emergency, not because they were worried about me or Jenna, but because they needed my wallet. A strange, almost terrifying calm washed over me. Maybe it was anger, maybe pure clarity. So, let me get this straight, I said, my voice dangerously calm. Last night, you told us our baby wasn't worth celebrating. You told us to leave your house if we didn't like it. You laughed at my wife. And now you want me to pay for a party for Emma? My sister's face went crimson. It's not just for me, she snapped. It's for the whole family, for the baby. My mom chimed in, her tone sharp. Ryan, don't be petty. This is bigger than whatever grudge you're holding. My dad sighed heavily, as if I were the difficult child rather than a grown man. Can you put your feelings aside just this once and do what's right? The room was spinning. I couldn't decide if I wanted to laugh or scream. Jenna reached over and put her hand on my knee, her touch grounding me. I could feel my pulse hammering in my ears. Do what's right. I repeated slowly, the words heavy with sarcasm. You think what's right is me bailing you out while you treat my wife like trash? No one said anything. My uncle, who'd been sitting quietly in the corner, cleared his throat and muttered, he's got a point. My dad shot him a look that could kill, but stayed silent. I stood up. You know what? I think we're done here. Jenna and I have a baby to prepare for, and we've got plenty to focus on without getting dragged into your drama. My mom looked like she was about to cry. Ryan, please. You're going to let your niece's first big celebration get ruined because of a fight? I stared at her for a long moment, my gaze unwavering. No, Mom, I said softly. You're the ones who ruined this. We just finally noticed. Then I turned and walked out, Jenna right behind me. No one tried to stop us this time. The whole house was silent, save for Emma's choked little sob as we shut the door. On the drive home, Jenna reached over and took my hand. You okay? She asked. I let out a shaky laugh. No, but I think I will be. There was a strange sort of power in finally standing my ground. But I had no idea what was coming next. Because by the time we got home, there were even more missed calls and one message that made my blood run cold. If you don't come back and fix this, we'll make sure everyone knows you abandoned the family in their time of need. I sat there staring at my phone, feeling that calmness start to harden into something else entirely, something sharper. Because if they wanted to play this game, they had no idea who they were dealing with. And that was the moment I realized things were about to get very, very interesting. I sat there in our quiet living room. The weight of that last message pressing on me like a stone. Abandoned the family in their time of need. The words made my jaw clench. They twisted everything. Made me the villain in a story where I'd been the one humiliated first. Jenna sat across from me on the couch, clutching a throw pillow against her stomach like a shield. "What did they say?" she asked. I handed her the phone. She read the message, her face unreadable, then looked up at me. "Ryan, they're threatening you." I nodded. "Yeah, they are." The thing is, I'd spent my whole life being the peacemaker, the one who swallowed his pride for the sake of keeping things smooth. But there's something about watching your wife cry herself to sleep that rewires your brain. My family had taken that one step too far, and now they were trying to paint me as the bad guy to everyone we knew. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, replaying every slight, every dismissive comment, every time my parents had made me feel small while putting Emma on a pedestal. The graduation brunch, the wedding fiasco, the endless, "why can't you be more like your sister?" comparisons. And now this, the ultimate insult. Jenna's soft breathing beside me was the only thing that kept me from completely spiraling. Around 3 a.m., I got up and went into my office. I sat down at my desk, turned on my computer, and started pulling up old bank records. See, there was something my family had conveniently forgotten. Over the years, I'd been the one quietly helping them when things got tight. When my dad's hours were cut back in 2020, I loaned them $8,000 to help with the mortgage. When Emma was in college, I co-signed a loan so she could study abroad. When Mom's car broke down last year, I paid for half the repairs because she said she couldn't swing it. None of that had ever been repaid, not even acknowledged. By the time the sun started coming up, I had a spreadsheet that would make an accountant proud. Every dollar I'd lent them, every time I'd helped them out of a bind, with dates and amounts. Looking at it all laid out like that made my blood boil. They had the nerve to call me selfish. At breakfast, Jenna found me still at the computer. "You've been up all night?" she asked gently. I nodded, rubbing my eyes. I needed to see it all laid out. I needed to remind myself I'm not crazy. I turned the screen so she could see. She skimmed the spreadsheet, her eyes widening. "Ryan, this is thousands of dollars." "Exactly," I said, my voice tight. "And they still treat me like I've never done a single thing for them." Before I could say more, my phone buzzed again. This time it was a group message from my parents and Emma. "Mom, Ryan, we really need to settle this before tomorrow. Everyone is asking questions. Please don't make this worse." "Dad, it's not about the money. It's about family showing up for each other." "Emma, honestly, if you let this party get cancelled, don't bother coming around once the baby's born. I won't let my child be around that kind of negativity." Jenna read the text over my shoulder. "Wow," she whispered. "They're doubling down." I felt something in me harden. "Then maybe it's time I stopped trying to keep the peace," I said. "Maybe it's time they see what it looks like when I stop letting them walk all over me." That day was a blur. I worked from home but barely got anything done. My phone kept buzzing with more messages, some guilt-tripping, some passive-aggressive, some outright angry. At one point, my dad left a voicemail saying, "Son, I raised you better than this. Don't embarrass the family. People are expecting a party tomorrow. If you let this get ruined, you'll regret it." I stared at the phone for a long time after that. Regret? What was there left for me to regret? The damage was already done. That evening, Jenna suggested we go for a walk to clear our heads. The air was cool, the streets quiet, save for the occasional passing car. "What do you want to do?" she asked after a few minutes of silence. I kicked at a loose pebble on the sidewalk, thinking. I want to do what's right for us for once. I'm done being their doormat. They've made it clear what I mean to them. I think it's time they find out what it feels like when I'm not there to clean up their messes. Jenna squeezed my hand. "Then do it," she said softly. "Whatever you decide, I'm with you." When we got back home, I sat down and wrote a long message to my parents and Emma. I kept it calm, almost formal. I've thought a lot about what happened last night and everything you've said since. It's clear that you don't respect me, my wife, or our child. I will not be paying for Emma's baby shower or helping with any other expenses. If that means the party is cancelled, so be it. I suggest you take this as a moment to reflect on how you've treated us. Until I see genuine change, we will be limiting contact for the sake of our own peace. I hit send, turned off my phone, and sat there in silence. It didn't take long. Less than an hour later, there was furious knocking at the door. Jenna and I exchanged a look. I got up, heart pounding, and opened it to find my dad standing there, red-faced. "Are you out of your mind?" he hissed, stepping inside without waiting for an invitation. "You're going to let your sister be humiliated tomorrow because of your pride?" "My pride?" I shot back. "You mean the pride you stomped on last night when you mocked my wife and laughed at our baby news?" "That was a joke," he snapped. "You're too sensitive." Jenna appeared behind me, arms crossed. "That joke made me cry myself to sleep," she said quietly. My dad froze, as if realizing for the first time that Jenna was actually affected, but then his jaw tightened. "Look, I'm sorry if you were upset, but we don't have time for this right now. Are you going to pay or not?" I stared at him for a long moment, then shook my head. "No." His face darkened. "Fine, but don't come crying to us when you've burned every bridge in this family." He turned on his heel and stormed out, slamming the door behind him. Jenna exhaled shakily. Well, that went about as expected. I sank down onto the couch, adrenaline still coursing through me. "This isn't over," I said quietly. "They're not going to let this go. And honestly, I'm not sure I want them to. I think it's time I stopped playing defense." That night, as we got ready for bed, my mind was racing. I kept thinking about all the times I'd bailed them out. All the leverage I had without even realizing it. My family thought they could guilt me into submission because that's what had always worked before. But tomorrow was going to be different. When I woke up the next morning, my phone was full again. Calls, texts, even messages from cousins and family friends. Word had clearly spread. People were concerned, disappointed, even ashamed. Emma had apparently posted something vague on Facebook about certain family members ruining what should have been a special day. I stared at the screen, my jaw tightening. If they wanted to take this public, then maybe that was exactly what needed to happen. And as that thought settled in, I felt the anger in my chest shift into something colder, sharper. This wasn't just about a party anymore. This was about years of being treated like the lesser child. About finally drawing a line in the sand. Because if my family wanted a war, I was starting to think I might just give them one. And that's exactly when the phone rang again. This time from an unknown number. Something told me this call was going to change everything. The phone kept ringing, each buzz a little sharper, a little more insistent, like it knew I was hesitating. I let it go to voicemail, but whoever it was called back immediately. Jenna was sitting across from me at the breakfast table, her spoon hovering above her cereal. "You should answer," she said, her voice calm but firm. I swiped to accept the call and put it on speaker. "Ryan?" It was a woman's voice, professional, clipped, unfamiliar. "This is Allison from Brookwood Events," she said, naming the venue my parents had rented for Emma's baby shower. My stomach sank. I already knew what was coming. "I've been trying to get a hold of your parents this morning," she continued. "I'm calling because we haven't received the remaining payment for tomorrow's event for your contract. If we don't have confirmation by 5 p.m. today, we'll have to release the space." I could hear Jenna trying not to laugh at the timing. "I think you're looking for my parents," I said slowly. "I am," Allison replied. "But they said you might be handling the payment." I almost laughed out loud. "No," I said simply. "I won't be." There was a pause on the line. Then I'm afraid the event will be cancelled. Do what you need to do, I said, then hung up. Jenna stared at me wide-eyed. That's it? You're letting it go? I leaned back in my chair, thinking. I'm letting them face the consequences of their choices, I said. If they cared more about keeping the party than about humiliating us, they would have apologized by now. They've had plenty of chances. But if I thought that would be the end of it, I was wrong. By noon, my phone was exploding again. Calls, texts, even a few angry DMs from relatives I barely spoke to. Emma had apparently posted a long, tearful rant on Facebook about being abandoned by her own brother a day before the most important moment of her life. There were comments pouring in, sympathy flooding toward her, and a few passive-aggressive ones. Clearly aimed at me. See what she's doing? Jenna said, scrolling through the comments on her phone. She's already spinning this to make you look like the villain. I clenched my fists. Then maybe it's time everyone sees the whole story. I opened my laptop, pulled up the spreadsheet I'd made with every dollar I'd ever lent or spent on my family's behalf, and took a screenshot. I posted it in response to Emma's post with a single caption, "Funny how I was a good brother when I was paying for your loans, your trips, and even part of Mom's car repair. But the second I say no, suddenly I'm abandoning the family." Within minutes, the comments section exploded. Half the family was suddenly very quiet. A few cousins messaged me privately saying they had no idea I'd been supporting my parents financially for years. My uncle even chimed in publicly, "I can confirm this is true. Ryan has been helping them for a long time." Emma deleted her post within the hour, but the damage was done. The perfect golden girl image had cracked. That afternoon, I got a text from my dad. "We need to talk. Come over tonight." No yelling, just a conversation. I showed Jenna. "Do we go?" She hesitated. "If we do, we go together, and we don't let them steamroll you this time." So that evening, we drove to my parents' house. The air felt thick as we walked up the driveway. Inside, my mom was sitting on the couch, wringing her hands, and my dad was standing by the window. Emma sat in the corner, arms crossed, looking like she'd been crying, but also like she was ready for a fight. "Thanks for coming," my dad said stiffly. "Let's cut to the chase," I said, keeping my voice calm. "You wanted to talk?" My mom started. "Ryan, you humiliated your sister today, posting private financial information online. How could you do that to family?" I almost laughed. "Private? You mean the money you never paid back? The money you acted like I never gave? I'm done keeping secrets so you can keep up appearances." Emma jumped in. "You didn't have to make it public. Do you know how embarrassing that was?" "Embarrassing?" I said, my voice rising despite myself. "You publicly shamed my wife and me last night. You mocked our child before it's even born. And when I stood up for myself, you tried to make me the villain to the entire family. You embarrassed yourself, Emma." The room went quiet. My dad finally spoke, his voice low. "Son, we just wanted to make sure Emma felt celebrated. You know, she's been through a lot." I stared at him in disbelief. "So have we. But that doesn't give you the right to treat us like second-class citizens in this family." My mom's lip trembled. For the first time, I thought she might actually cry. "We just wanted everyone to be happy," she whispered. "Well, congratulations," Jenna said sharply from beside me. "Because now everyone is miserable." My dad rubbed his face and sank into a chair. "What do you want from us, Ryan?" That question hung in the air like smoke. For years, I'd have given anything just to be treated equally, to get a pat on the back or a word of praise. But something had shifted in me since last night. I didn't want scraps of approval anymore. I wanted respect. "I want you to admit you were wrong," I said finally. "Not just to me, but to Jenna." And I want you to stop treating Emma like she's the only one who matters. We're about to give you another grandchild, whether you like it or not. That child will not grow up feeling unwanted just because you can't be bothered to show up." Emma scoffed. "So, this is about control now?" "No," I said, meeting her gaze. "It's about boundaries. Something you clearly don't understand." No one spoke for a long moment. Then my dad said, "We'll think about it." That was all I needed to hear. "Take all the time you need," I said, standing. "But until you figure it out, Jenna and I are stepping back. Don't call. Don't text. When you're ready to treat us like equals, you know where to find us." I turned and walked out. This time, Jenna didn't just follow. She slipped her hand into mine and squeezed. On the drive home, I felt a strange sense of relief, like a weight had been lifted off my chest. But underneath that relief, there was still a simmering anger. This wasn't over. They still hadn't taken real responsibility. When we got home, there was another envelope on the porch. This one slid under the door while we were gone. Inside was something I hadn't expected, a copy of my parents' will. And next to my name, scrawled in my dad's handwriting, were 3 words that made my blood run cold: "This can change." I sat down hard, the letters shaking in my hands. For a long moment, I couldn't speak. Jenna knelt next to me, reading over my shoulder. "Ryan," she said softly. "They're threatening to cut you out." I looked at her, my jaw tightening, my anger shifting from a slow burn to something sharp and electric. "No," I said, my voice calm but cold. "They just gave me more leverage than they realize. Because if they thought they could control me with threats, they were about to learn just how wrong they were." And that was the moment the idea began to take shape. An idea that would not just level the playing field, but tip it completely in my favor. I sat at the kitchen table for what felt like hours. The copy of the will spread out in front of me. My dad's scrawled note, "This can change," stared back at me like a challenge. For a long time, I didn't say anything. I just let the quiet wrap around me, heavy and oppressive. Jenna sat across from me, watching me carefully, like she was afraid I might explode. Finally, I laughed, a short, humorless sound that made Jenna flinch. "You know what this means, right?" I said, tapping the paper with one finger. "They think this is my price, that all they have to do is dangle some inheritance over my head and I'll fall back in line." Jenna frowned. "Ryan, do you even care about the inheritance?" I leaned back in my chair, exhaling slowly. "I used to, not because of the money itself, but because it meant, I don't know, that they still considered me part of the family. But now?" I gestured toward the will. "Now it just feels like a leash. And I'm done being on a leash." I folded the will neatly, slid it back into the envelope, and set it aside. If they want to play games, fine. I can play, too. The next day was supposed to be the baby shower. Social media was already buzzing with relatives posting travel selfies and tagging Emma, writing things like, "So excited to celebrate the newest addition to the family. Can't wait to see everyone tomorrow." I knew the party wasn't happening unless someone had magically paid off the venue in the middle of the night, but no one had gone public about that yet. Around 10 a.m., my phone rang again. This time, it was my cousin Laura, who lived 2 states away and had flown in for the event. I answered reluctantly. "Ryan," she said immediately. "What's going on? Everyone's saying there's a problem with the shower venue?" "There is," I said bluntly. "It's cancelled." She sounded stunned. "Cancelled? Why?" "Because my parents couldn't pay the balance and then tried to guilt me into covering it," I said, my voice flat. When I said no, they decided to make me the bad guy instead of owning up to their mistake. Laura was silent for a moment. Then she let out a low whistle. "Wow. They really told everyone this was on you." I just had Aunt Julie corner me at breakfast. Talking about how selfish you've gotten since you married Jenna. I felt my jaw tighten. Figures. Ryan, Laura said gently. I know we don't talk much, but I believe you, honestly. I've always noticed how they treat you compared to Emma. It's messed up. If you want me to say something to the rest of the family, I will. Her words caught me off guard. It was the first time anyone outside of Jenna had openly acknowledged what I'd felt my whole life. Thanks, Laura, I said, my voice softer. I might take you up on that. After we hung up, Jenna came into the kitchen holding her phone. You're going to want to see this, she said grimly and handed it to me. Emma had posted a new status. Some people just love tearing down happy moments. Don't worry, everyone. We're still going to celebrate today, even if some family members try to ruin everything. There were already dozens of comments underneath, most of them sympathetic. People offering to help, asking for the new address. I could practically hear Emma basking in the attention, playing the victim. She's going to try to throw something last minute at Mom and Dad's house, I said slowly. Even if it's just cake and decorations in the backyard, she's not going to let her moment slip away. So, what do we do? Jenna asked. I sat down, drumming my fingers against the table. We don't stop her, I said. Finally. We let them throw their little pity party, and then we make sure the truth comes out where everyone can see it. That afternoon, I went into my office and dug through old emails and bank statements. I found the confirmation receipts from the money I'd lent my parents. Screenshots of the texts where they'd promised to pay me back as soon as possible. I even found the old messages from Emma begging me to co-sign that loan for her study abroad trip, telling me she'd be forever grateful. When I had everything together, I drafted a post. Not angry, not ranting, just factual. I laid out the timeline of events from the night we announced our pregnancy to the baby shower payment issue. I attached the receipts, redacting sensitive information, but leaving just enough to prove I wasn't making anything up. Before I hit post, I showed it to Jenna. Are you sure about this? She asked, her voice careful. Yes, I said. Because they've been controlling the narrative for too long. This time, people are going to hear our side before Emma spins it into something else. I scheduled the post to go live at 4 p.m., the exact time the original baby shower was supposed to start. When 4 o'clock rolled around, my phone lit up like a Christmas tree. Notifications poured in. Comments, shares, messages. Some relatives were shocked, some angry, some quietly supportive. My uncle texted me a simple, "Good for you." About time. But the real explosion came half an hour later when Emma posted a furious reply, "Wow, way to make everything about you, Ryan. Congratulations. You ruined my baby shower and humiliated our parents." I didn't respond. I didn't have to. The comments under her post were already turning against her. People were asking why she hadn't apologized for mocking our pregnancy, why she was blaming me for a bill that wasn't mine to pay. Even a few of her friends chimed in, saying they were shocked at how mean-spirited the joke had been. That night, Jenna and I sat on the couch, scrolling through the chaos together. It's like watching a house of cards collapse, she said quietly. Yeah, I agreed. Though there was no satisfaction in my voice yet. Not yet. But this isn't the end. They're not going to let this go. They're going to come back at me harder. As if on cue, my phone buzzed with a text from my dad. You've made a fool of this family. We'll talk tomorrow in person. I stared at the message, a slow, cold smile spreading across my face. Good, I murmured. Let them come. Because by now, I had more than just receipts. I had a plan. And when they showed up tomorrow, I was going to make sure they finally understood that I wasn't their scapegoat anymore. Jenna must have seen the look in my eyes because she reached over, squeezed my hand, and said softly, "Whatever you're thinking, I'm with you. Just make sure you do it smart." I nodded, feeling that strange, electric clarity settle over me again. This wasn't just about money anymore. This was about years of being treated like I was less. Tomorrow, I thought, was going to be the day everything changed. And as I sat there refining my plan in my head, a new message came through from an unknown number. One that made my heart skip a beat. Ryan, you don't know me, but you need to hear what really happened with that payment. The unknown number stared back at me like a blinking cursor. For a moment, I just sat there, my thumb hovering over the screen, my chest tightening. Jenna leaned over my shoulder. "Who is it?" she asked softly. "No idea," I muttered, my voice low. "But they know about the payment." Before I could overthink it, I texted back. "Who is this?" A moment passed, then another, and then 3 gray dots appeared. "My name's Tessa. I work at Brookwood Events. I was the one who called you yesterday about the payment." That made my pulse quicken. "I probably shouldn't be doing this," she continued. "But I saw what your sister posted online and it bothered me. Your parents didn't just miss the payment. The card was declined because the account had been emptied the day before by Emma's husband." I read the message twice, my brain working overtime. "Emptied? What do you mean emptied?" I typed back this time. She sent a longer reply. "I shouldn't have access to their account details, but I overheard your dad arguing with someone from the bank on speakerphone this morning. He was saying the balance had been drained for personal expenses and that the funds wouldn't clear in time. It sounded like your brother-in-law made a big purchase without telling anyone. Your parents are blaming you because they don't want people to know they can't control their own finances." I set the phone down on the table, my hands shaking, not with fear, but with something sharper, more focused. Jenna watched me carefully. "What did they say?" I told her, reading the messages aloud. Her eyes widened with every word. So the entire mess, all the guilt-tripping, all the begging, was just them covering for Emma and her husband? I nodded slowly, a bitter laugh escaping me. Of course it was. They didn't just want me to fix their problem. They wanted me to do it quietly so no one would ever know their golden daughter's husband blew through the family's money like a fool. Something in me clicked into place right then, like a puzzle piece I'd been missing my whole life. This wasn't just about favoritism anymore. It was about power, about control. My parents weren't just playing favorites. They were actively rewriting reality to keep Emma blameless, no matter the cost. And now, finally, I had proof that their little empire of appearances was rotting from the inside out. I stared at the phone, then texted Tessa back. "Thank you. You didn't have to tell me this, but you did. That means a lot." She replied quickly. "I just thought you deserved to know. Good luck tomorrow." When I looked up, Jenna was watching me with that quiet intensity she gets when she knows I'm about to do something big. "What's going through your head?" she asked carefully. I leaned back in my chair, feeling oddly calm. "Tomorrow," I said, "they wanted to have a party to celebrate Emma and sweep all this under the rug. Instead, I think tomorrow might be the day we stop pretending." I spent the rest of the night planning, not out of revenge, not yet, but out of a need for truth. I pulled together the screenshots from Tessa's messages, compiled the timeline of when the account was emptied, and cross-referenced it with Emma's husband's social media posts. Sure enough, he posted a picture 2 days ago of some expensive new toy, an ATV, captioned, "How to treat myself before the baby comes." Jenna looked over my shoulder and shook her head. "This is perfect," she said. "You don't even have to accuse him of anything. Just show people the facts and let them draw their own conclusions." But the more I sat with it, the more I realized that just posting online wasn't enough this time. No, if my parents wanted a meeting in person, then I was going to give them one. A very different kind of meeting than they were expecting. The next morning, I woke up early, showered, and put on a button-down shirt and slacks. The kind of outfit I only wore to work presentations or job interviews. Jenna did the same, pulling her hair back neatly, looking every bit the picture of calm resolve. "This feels like we're going to court," she said with a small smile. "In a way, we are," I said. "Except this time, there's no judge, just truth." When we arrived at my parents' house, the driveway was full again. It felt like déjà vu, but this time there was no nervousness in my chest, only a cold, steady focus. We walked up to the door together, Jenna's hand brushing against mine. Inside, the entire cast was waiting. My mom, my dad, Emma, her husband, even my grandmother again. The tension in the room was thick enough to choke on. "You came," my mom said, standing up quickly. "Yes," I said simply. "You wanted to talk, so let's talk." My dad gestured to the couch. "Sit." I didn't move. "No, I'll stand." For a moment, no one spoke. Then Emma's husband cleared his throat. "Look, Ryan, I think we've all let things get a little out of hand." I cut him off, pulling out my phone. "Out of hand? You mean like draining the account that was supposed to pay for this whole circus and then letting everyone blame me for the fallout?" The room went still. Emma's head whipped toward her husband. "What is he talking about?" He stammered. I don't know what he means." "Oh, you do?" I said, swiping open the screenshot of Tessa's message and holding it up. "I have confirmation from the venue staff. The card didn't just bounce because of some random bank error. It bounced because you spent the money the day before on this." I held up another screenshot, his grinning selfie with the brand new ATV. Emma's face turned crimson. "You didn't." "I did," he snapped back defensively. "We needed something fun before the baby comes." "You used my parents' money?" Emma shouted, her voice rising. "You ruined my shower." "Enough." My dad barked, but it was too late. The shouting had begun. My mom had her face buried in her hands. My grandmother was demanding explanations, and Emma was half crying, half yelling at her husband while he tried to justify himself. I stood there, silent, letting it all unfold. Jenna slipped her hand into mine, her grip firm. Finally, when the room had quieted to a low simmer, I spoke. "Do you understand now?" I said, my voice calm. "Do you understand why I said no? Why I walked away? Because every time there's a mess, you expect me to fix it quietly, invisibly. And every time I do, you go right back to treating me like I'm less than. I'm done cleaning up your disasters while being treated like an outsider." My mom finally looked up, her eyes wet. "Ryan," she said softly. "We were just trying to protect Emma." "From what?" I asked, my voice sharp now. "From the consequences of marrying someone irresponsible? From reality? You didn't protect her. You enabled her. And then you tried to use me to cover it up." No one said anything. For the first time, I think they all realized just how much I'd been holding back over the years. "This isn't just about a baby shower," I said quietly. "This is about a lifetime of being treated like my accomplishments, my feelings, my family don't matter. That ends today." I turned and headed for the door. No one tried to stop me this time. Outside, the air felt fresher somehow, like a storm had just passed, even though I knew it hadn't. Not really. The storm was just beginning. Because inside that house, my parents and sister were being forced to sit with the truth for the first time in years. And I had a feeling that when they were done stewing, they were going to come back swinging, which was fine by me, because this time, I wasn't planning to just defend myself. This time I was going to make sure that when the dust settled, everyone finally saw who had been holding this family together all along. And just as Jenna and I were getting into the car, my phone buzzed again. This time with a notification that someone had tagged me in a very public post. I opened it and my stomach dropped. Emma had just gone live on Facebook, and whatever she was about to say, I knew it was going to change everything again. When I opened the live stream, Emma's face filled my screen. Her eyes were red, and she looked more frazzled than I'd ever seen, her hair loose, makeup streaked like she'd been crying. But she was still speaking clearly, her voice carrying that same performative tone she'd used her whole life whenever she wanted to play the victim. To everyone who's been asking what happened with the baby shower, she began, I just want to say how hurt I am. My brother decided to turn a private family matter into a public spectacle. He humiliated us, dragged our family name through the mud, and ruined what should have been the happiest day of my life. I felt my jaw clench. Jenna, sitting in the passenger seat, put a hand on my arm before I could slam the phone shut. Wait, she said softly. Let her finish. Emma kept going. I didn't want to say this, but he's always been jealous of me. Our whole lives, Ryan has resented me for being close to Mom and Dad. This was his way of getting back at us by making sure my baby shower was cancelled and everyone knew about it. The comments were flying faster than I could read them. Some were supportive, but others were skeptical, pointing out that I'd posted proof of everything. A few even asked why she hadn't apologized for mocking our pregnancy. And then, without warning, Emma's husband popped into frame, looking furious. This is ridiculous, he snapped. You're all acting like Ryan's some kind of hero when he's just petty. Yeah, I bought something with the account, but that's because I knew he'd never step up. Somebody had to make sure our kid had something nice before he comes into this miserable family. Emma looked horrified. Why would you say that live? She hissed, slapping the phone out of his hand. The screen went dark as the stream abruptly ended. I just sat there in stunned silence for a moment before a slow, incredulous laugh bubbled out of me. Well, I said. I think that just did my job for me. By the time we got home, the video had been shared dozens of times. People were commenting things like, so, it was the husband and Ryan was right to say no. Even some of Emma's closest friends were calling her out in the comments, asking why she'd let the whole family pile on me when she knew the truth. That night, there was no frantic knocking at my door. No barrage of texts, just silence. And somehow that silence was louder than anything. The next morning, I woke to a single message from my mom, Ryan, can you come over? Just you and Jenna. No one else will be here. Please. I showed it to Jenna, who sighed, do you want to go? I nodded slowly. Yeah, I think it's time to finish this. When we arrived, the house was quiet. My mom was sitting at the kitchen table, looking smaller than I'd ever seen her. My dad was next to her, his expression grim, but less angry than before. Ryan, my mom said softly. Jenna, thank you for coming. I sat down across from them, Jenna's hand in mine. You said you wanted to talk. My dad nodded. We owe you an apology. I blinked, caught off guard. I hadn't expected him to say it so directly. You were right, he continued, about everything. We've been unfair to you for years. We put Emma on a pedestal and we took you for granted. And when this whole thing happened, we let our fear of embarrassment make us lash out at you instead of admitting the truth. That was wrong. My mom's voice was trembling as she spoke. I can't believe we let it get this far. We almost lost you over this. We don't want that. Not now. Not with the baby coming. Jenna squeezed my hand and I felt my throat tighten. For a long moment, I didn't say anything. I just let the words sit there, tasting them. I appreciate the apology, I said finally. But this can't just be words. Things have to change for real. My dad nodded. They will. We've already told Emma she's going to have to apologize, too, and pay back the money she and her husband took before we helped them with anything else. That made my eyebrows shoot up. You actually told her that? Yes, my mom said, a flicker of steel in her voice I hadn't seen before. She wasn't happy about it, but she agreed. She's embarrassed, Ryan, and she should be. It wasn't everything. It wouldn't erase years of favoritism overnight, but it was something. It was the first time they had chosen accountability over appearances. When we left that day, I felt lighter than I had in months. Jenna smiled at me in the car. That was the first time I've ever heard your dad apologize for anything. Yeah, I said quietly, almost to myself. Me, too. A week later, Emma sent us a text. It wasn't dramatic. No tears or excuses, just a simple message, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have joked about your pregnancy. I shouldn't have let everyone blame you. I hope someday you can forgive me. I showed it to Jenna, who nodded. It's a start. We didn't rush to reply. We didn't run back into the fold as if nothing had happened. But when our baby shower came a month later, hosted by Jenna's family, full of warmth and laughter and actual joy, my parents came. They were on their best behavior. They brought gifts. They congratulated Jenna sincerely. And for the first time in a long time, it felt like maybe, just maybe, we were on our way to having a family that didn't run on favoritism and manipulation. After everyone had left and Jenna was asleep, I sat alone in the nursery we'd been putting together piece by piece. I looked around at the tiny crib, the soft blankets, the shelves waiting to be filled with books, and I thought about the kind of father I wanted to be. I wasn't going to repeat the cycle. I wasn't going to make my child feel like they had to earn my love or that they were competing with anyone else for a place in this family. I smiled to myself, feeling that quiet sense of resolution settle in. My parents had tried to break me, but in the end, they'd given me something better than their approval: clarity. Clarity about who I was, what I stood for, and what I wanted for my own family. The next morning, I sent a final message to the family group chat. Jenna and I are moving forward. You're welcome to be part of our lives, but only if you treat us and our child with respect. No more guilt trips. No more playing favorites. Those days are over. No one argued this time. And as I stood there that night, hand resting on Jenna's growing belly, I realized that for the first time in my life, I felt completely at peace. Not because my parents had finally apologized, not because Emma had been forced to face consequences, but because I'd finally taken control of my own story and refused to give it back. It had taken a ruined baby shower, a family implosion, and 1,000 late-night thoughts. But in the end, we built something stronger. A future where my child would never doubt for a second that they were worth celebrating. And that, I thought, as I turned off the light in the nursery, was the only legacy that really mattered. What would you have done in my place? Have you ever had to draw a line in the sand with your family? Tell me what you think in the comments, I really want to know.